Disclaimer: content in this video has been created strictly for educational and investigational purposes. There is no intention to glamorise or endorse criminality or any aspect of crime. The information in this video has been acquired online from publicly available sources. It's 1978 and Scotland's prison system is feeling the weight of serious offenders needing a secure spot. Enter HMP Shotts, a brand new purpose-built jail in Cantelaw Road designed to hold 528 male prisoners serving sentences of 4 years or more. It was a fortress for people transferred from other jails, often because they needed tighter control. The jail was a lifeline for the Shotts community, which was feeling the brunt of the closure of the local coal mines. Jobs at the jail gave the area a much needed boost, making it a cornerstone of the local economy. By 1987, the jail was bursting at the seams, so they stuck on an extension to take in more cons. But it was in 1990 where Shotts would experience one of its most infamous incidents. A good old hall riot with a side order, a hostage taking. It's the morning of April 10th, 1990, and Shotts is running its usual tight ship. But trouble's brewing. Just days after the Strangeways riot shook Manchester, sparkling unrest across UK jails, 40 cons at Shotts decided to act. They take care of B Hall, a two-flare section of the jail, barricading doors and creating a makeshift stronghold. In the chaos, he sees Jim Rankin, a 30-year-old screw from Motherwell. Rankin is another hostage, and the jail is thrown into lockdown. The rest of the cons are stuck in their gaffs, and word spread fast. Shotts is in crisis. For nearly 20 hours, B Hall's a world apart. The cons, many serving life sentences, had ranked in a space with overturned tables and scattered debris. The hall's layout, cells along corridors, a central area for activities, becomes a maze of tension. Negotiators for the SPS are shouted in, wanting to defuse the situation through talks. Outside, the police and jail officials, they get together and they're prepping for any outcome. The media gets wind of it, and headlines start painting a picture of violence, some linking it back to Strangeways' destruction. Inside, the cons' grievances likely centre on conditions, overcrowding, lack of privacy, and a regime that leaves little room for hope. But no clear demands are recorded. On April 11th, the deadlock breaks. Rankin took an opportunity. What he done was, he takes a chance when the cons aren't looking, bolts for the first flare landing, and jumps over the stairwell. He lands, and quite rightly so, puts the boot down. His escape catches the cons off guard, disrupting their control. Prison staff moves swiftly and using the moment to re-enter B Hall and restore order. The standoff ends without serious injuries, which is a rare outcome in these kind of situations. B Hall is wrecked. There's smashed furniture, scattered goods, and a sense of what might have been. Rankin's checked for injuries. He's pretty much fine. He gets back home to his family. Apparently, his actions get praised for Lord James Douglas Hamilton, who commands his quote-unquote great courage and presence of mind. The negotiators are recognised for their role in keeping the situation from escalating. The cons are sent back to their cells, and the SPS begins assessing the damage. Dr. John Reid, the local MP, voices concerns about Shotts' role in housing high-risk inmates, hinting at community unease. The 1990 hostage crisis shines a light on the challenge facing HMP Shotts and Scotland's prisons at the time. Reports of the era, like those in the Herald, describe it as a siege, but details on the con side are a bit thin. Some sources suggest it was a protest against conditions, cells with no privacy, a system just stretched too thin. Others seen it as a ripple of Strangeways calls for reform. The lack of clear demands and limited records make it kinda hard to pin down. The 1990 HMP Shotts hostage crisis was a pivotal moment, a 20-hour clash that tested the jail's limits. For the takeover of B Hall to Rankin's escape, it's a story of high stakes. But what other trials awaited Shotts, and how did they shape its path? By the 2000s, Shotts is home to 50% lifers, the highest in Scotland, making it a place where time stretched long and heavy. The 2007 inspection report called it stable, a far cry from its early days when violence was the talk of the town. Single cells, no overcrowding, and a decent relationship between staff and cons helped keep things calm. But it wasn't perfect. You had unscreened toilets, grotty cells, and limited job training were sore points. You see, Shotts had some unique setups, like the National Integration Centre, which was known as the NIC, which took in cons starting sentences of 8 years or more, no sex offenders mind, to prep them for mainstream jails. In 2007, the NIC had up to 116 cons. Some of them were staying there for up to 2 years. Then you'd Care House, a top end for low supervision cons near release, holding 46 of its 59 spaces that year. The units showed that Shotts was trying to balance locking up people with giving them a path forward, but the old buildings were starting to show their age. Fast forward to 2012, and it was time for a massive overhaul. The original Shotts was knocked down, and a shiny new jail rose up in the same site, bumping the capacity to 538. You see, the rebuild was all about modernising. Think like eco-friendly designs, better security, and spaces built for rehabilitation. It went the old B, C and D halls in Care House, and then came Lament Hall and Allerton Hall, each holding about 269 cons. Allerton's got 4 flares, 1 and 2 for protection cases, 3 for mainstream, and 4 for the NIC, which now holds around 60 long-termers. Lament is all mainstream across its 4 flares. There's also a 14-cell segregation and reintegration unit, SRU to call it, for up to 12 cons needing isolated for safety or discipline. The SEG. The new Shotts was a game changer. Every cell had its own toilet and shower, fixing the old complaints about privacy. A 2013 BBC report even called the accommodation some of the best in Scotland's prison system. The NIC kept its role, helping cons ease into long sentences, whilst the SRU dealt with the toughest cases. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. A 2022 inspection flagged staff shortages, dodgy patient care, and a whole load of drugs, showing that the new build couldn't have fixed everything. Shotts has been in the papers for all sorts. Some pure grim, and some showing a bit of heart. Here's a deep dive into the biggest stories that put Shotts in the spotlight. One of them being the attack of Stuart Sproul. It was around 8 in the morning, on a standard morning in Shotts. Officer Stuart Sproul was doing his rounds, opening security gates in the main hall. The CCTV shows Thomas Stevenson, a 30-year-old con, walking up to him. Before you know it, Stevenson whips out a blade and rips the dial right off him. At first it just looked like a punch on camera, but within seconds the blood is gushing out his cutin. Stevenson gets the boot down, runs down the corridor and stashes the blade, but it gets grabbed quite quickly, surprisingly. The place gets locked down right away. Sproul's kicking about with his face hanging off him, and he was left with an 8cm gash. Sproul gets rushed out to the hospital, his face hanging open like a horror film. Police Scotland get to Shotts sharpish, and Stevenson is reported to the Procurator Fiscal. For what I hear, Stuart Sproul was actually one of the better screws, so I've been told. So why did he get attacked? This leads us back to Thomas Stevenson, right? Who actually was Thomas Stevenson? Stevenson wasn't your typical con, right? He was sentenced to 6 years for assault and robbery down in Ayrshire. He had a long history with mental health issues, paranoid schizophrenia being a massive one, and that was tied back to a weed habit stretching back to his teens. Before he was in Shotts, he was bounced around psychiatric wards, including Carstairs, which is Scotland's maximum security mental hospital. But just 8 weeks before attacking Stuart, Stevenson gets shifted from Carstairs to Shotts. The doctors said he was stable enough, but clearly wasn't he? But it seemed he was too mad for Shotts. In June 2017, Stevenson faced Hamilton Sheriff Court and pled guilty to the slashing. The CCTV footage was played to a silent court, showing the attack. Because Stevenson's mental health history, Sheriff Ray Small handed down a restriction and compulsion order. This wasn't traditional jail time. Stevenson was to be locked up indefinitely at Carstairs. Right back up the road, the Screws Union, POAS, was absolutely raging. They said Stevenson should never have been at Shotts to start with, and the move for Carstairs to a mainstream jail had been a terrible decision. But what happened to Sproul wasn't an isolated case. Violence in Scottish jails was getting worse in that time, and Gonolfo and our Screw got slashed just a few months earlier. At Shotts itself, cons were regularly stabbing and slashing each other. Violence was up everywhere, especially against female screws, with numbers doubling in recent years. The slashing of Stuart Sproul was a shocking, brutal attack. It revealed deep problems behind Scotland's prison was. A screw disfigured and a violent nutter wrongly placed in a system forced to face hard truths. But in the end, one thing was clear. Jails like Shotts aren't a joke. On the 8th of August 2020, Kurt McIntyre, a lifer, went off his heeding shots. He battered fellow con Scott Fowler with a pool cue and leaving him a mess with a broken nose and cuts all over his head. The CCTV caught McIntyre, who was 54 at the time, walking into the cell and leaving 2 minutes later, with Fowler staggering out after. McIntyre clearly denied it, but Hamilton Sheriff Court wasn't having it, and they smacked on an extra 3 years on his 20-year minimum sentence. Fowler tried to say he was high on illegal drugs and fell, but the evidence pointed straight at McIntyre. Unfortunately, McIntyre's story ended in tragedy. He died in Shotts on April 25th, 2025, aged 56, triggering a fatal accident inquiry. Today, HMP Shotts stands as Scotland's only jail solely for long-term adult male prisoners, holding them serving 5 years or more, with many doing life sentences. It's a maximum security fortress with double perimeter fences, extensive CCTV and strict controls. But there's a growing focus on giving inmates a chance to change. The prison offers education, to basic literacy, to vocational courses and mental health support to help people prep for life outside. Recent programmes like drama workshops where cons write scripts about the justice system aim to cut re-offending, beginning a creative outlet. The family centre run by Get Better Together is a standout, making visits less daunting, especially for the Waynes. Around 1,600 visitors come monthly in the centre. The only one behind Shotts secure line helps keep family ties strong, which is key for reducing re-offending. Sacro's bus service for Glasgow twice a month makes it easier for families to get there. But it's not a walk in the park. A 2022 inspection report painted a grim picture. Staff shortages were hitting healthcare, training and evening activities hard. Patient care get a poor rating with no GP cover from 1:30 PM to 6 PM. No doctors in the afternoon. A pilot survey was even more worrying. 46% of prisoners said they'd seen staff abusing or bullying inmates. 77% thought the complaint system was rubbish, and 49% didn't know how to reach an independent prison monitor. Drugs are a massive problem too, with a high incidence of substance issues for your intention. But despite these hurdles, Shotts keeps pushing forward. The NIC continues to guide long-termers, while initiatives like We Dogs Wednesday and dementia awareness show a commitment to well-being. It's a place of contrast, locking up the worst of the worst, but trying to make them better, apparently. From its gritty beginnings in 1978 to its sleek rebuild in 2012, Shotts has been a mirror of Scotland's prison system. Tough, troubled, but trying to change. Its history is packed with dark moments, like violent attacks and corruption. But moving on to a more relaxed setting, we visit a place that's not just a nick, but a living piece of Scotland's soul. This isn't just your usual jail. Think of a castle rising from a rocky outcrop, built when knights were still swinging swords. It's the only open prison in Scotland, giving cons a shot at redemption. But what started as a fortress in 1452 became a housing block for low-risk cons. It's not just cons that are running about, there's also been sightings of a ghost. The ghost of HMP Castle Huntly. If you want to view this episode in its entirety, then head on over to the Patreon and sign up to the Patter Pro tier. For a small one-off payment, you can watch the full history of the Scottish Prison System podcast.